my name is Marina, and I'm with the University of Georgia Intensive English Program. A question that I get asked a lot is which is more difficult, the Ielts or the Toefl? That doesn't really have an easy answer, and it really depends on you. Honestly, they're both hard. But which one might be a better fit for you depends on your strengths and your skills. So in this video, we're going to talk about the differences between the two tests and how you can figure out which test you might score higher on. The biggest difference between the Ielts and the Toefl is that the Toefl is a computer-based test and the Ielts is a paper-based test. But the first thing you need to think about before deciding which test to take is the location with where they're given. Maybe they offer Toefl in your home city every couple weeks, but Ielts is 3 hours away and only offered every other month. In that case, you'd probably be better off taking the Toefl. You also need to look at cost. They're usually about $200 per test, but this varies country to country, so check that out too. Now on the speaking section, they're pretty different. On the Toefl, you're going to be speaking to a computer. You're going to listen to questions that are recorded. You have to use a headset and a microphone to record your answers. This might be kind of impersonal because on the Ielts, you talk to a person. The questions are face-to-face. You might find this to be more natural and you might do a better job, but everybody's different. The benefit of talking to a person is if you don't understand the question, you can ask them to repeat it. Or if you're not really sure what they mean, you can ask them to clarify, and that's okay. The Toefl speaking section is also much quicker. You have to record your answers in 45 to 60 seconds, which might sound easier, but in reality it can actually be harder because you have to pack a lot of information into a short amount of time. Another way that they're different is the listening section. On the Toefl, you listen first to the listening passage, and you have to take really good detailed notes while you're listening. Then they give you the questions, and you have to use your notes to answer the questions. You can only listen one time. But on the Ielts, they give you the questions first, and so you're able to read over the questions, you have a little bit of time to look over them and try to figure out what you're looking for, and then you listen and answer the questions at the same time that you're listening. Like the Toefl, you can only listen one time. One way that some people might say the Toefl is easier is because the questions on the reading and the listening section are 100% multiple choice. This means that on the Ielts, spelling is more important than it is on the Toefl. On the Ielts listening and reading, you might have all sorts of different kinds of questions, like table completion, matching, sentence completion, all sorts of different types of questions, and you have to spell your answers right or you get the question wrong. So if you're not very good at spelling, then the Toefl might be a better test for you. Even though the questions on the Toefl reading and listening section are multiple choice and it might seem like they're easier, people tell me a lot that they're actually more difficult because you often have to find inferences and make observations, whereas the questions on the Ielts are much more straightforward. And then the last section is writing. We won't talk about the writing task 2 because on both tests they're basically the same. Where they differ is the writing task 1. On the Ielts, you're given a graph, a diagram, a map, or a chart, and you have to summarize what it says. And on the Toefl, you have to listen and read a passage and then write about it. So one of these skills is not more difficult than the other, they're just different. So you have to ask yourself, would you be better at looking at a graph and writing about it, or listening to a passage and reading the selection and then writing about that? The Toefl really integrates skills a lot more than the Ielts does. On the Ielts, the speaking section is just that, a speaking section. The listening section only tests listening, beyond the fact that you have to read your questions, and the reading test only tests reading, just like writing just tests writing. But on the Toefl, during the speaking section, you also have to listen to some passages and read some passages and then talk about it. And on the writing section, you have to read and listen and then write about it. So if you're not very good at integrating all those skills and multitasking, maybe the Ielts would be a better test for you. So, which one is more difficult really depends on you. Again, the biggest difference is that the Toefl is a computer-based test and Ielts is a paper-based test. So if you're not good with computers, then Ielts would maybe be a better choice. But if your handwriting is really messy and people have a really hard time reading what you're writing, maybe the Toefl would be better. If you type really, really slowly and you're not good on English keyboards, then probably the Ielts is a better choice. It just really depends on you. I've created a questionnaire that you can answer simple, easy questions to try to figure out which test better fits your strengths, so you can figure out which test you'll score higher on. You can find the questionnaire on our website at iep.uga.edu. There you will find it and you can figure out which test you should take. After you figure that out, you can study for that test, and I'm sure you'll be able to get the score that you need. Thanks and good luck.